Hey, this is Don from Padlock Technologies again with another video. This time we're going to do a continuation of carrier support carrier. I did say something in my last video and I said, you know what, let me lab it up. So what we're going to talk about today. So basically what we're going to talk about is doing VPLS with carrier support carrier. Now in the other video, I did VPWS, right? Virtual Private Wire Service. I did that with carrier support carrier. And the reason why I didn't do VPLS is because I didn't have the route reflectors in the proper location to properly do VPLS, right? Now, this is also going to help you guys that are your CCNAs, your CCNPs, some even your CCIEs, right? Because I know when we take labs and we take training and we do all this type of stuff, we kind of see the route reflectors in the same physical location as the network, right? From an MPLS standpoint. Well, in the real world, your route reflectors may not even be in the same physical location, right? And this is what we're going to use carrier support carrier to actually show, right? I'm going to have my route reflectors in a different point of presence, and then I'm going to have my PEs in a different point of presence as well, but they're going to be in the same ASN, so they're going to be in the same, overlay network, but they're not going to be in the same physical location, right? So I want you guys to get used to not thinking that the route reflector is always going to be in the same physical location where your PEs are. All right. Now, before we get in this lab, I'm going to ask you a favor. If you get any value from this video, I got plenty of other videos where you can learn a lot of stuff, right? Please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. If you do that, helps me, you like it, gets my videos out there, helps grow the channel, and I get to help more people than just you that's watching right now. So with that being said, let's get in the lab and let's check this out. All right, so this is the lab that you saw in the last video. If you haven't seen that video, like I said, I'll put a card somewhere up here or I'll put a link in the description for a basic carrier support carrier setup. But this one's going to be carrier support carrier with VPLS. So the difference between the last video and this video is my route reflector network is up here. Now you can tell we're still in the same ASN of 65002. So from a control plane perspective, my route reflectors are going to be responsible for the control plane, right? That's what the route reflectors are going to be responsible for. And then the data plane is going to be down here where the PEs are. Now, because my route reflectors are not in the same physical locations as my other networks, right, my other points of presence, from a data plane perspective, we are just going to go through a carrier network and get to the other PEs. We are not even going to go up to the route reflectors because they're kind of out of the mix. They're like out of band, right? Out of band route reflectors kind of situation. So let's look at some of the configurations here. And if you know me, I'm a stickler for templatizing a lot of configurations. This will help you with your CCIE exam because there is a speed component to it where you should have some configurations in there as fast as possible. And if you use templates, you are blocking configurations. It'll allow you to speed up your configurations, and then it'll save you some time that you may need for troubleshooting once you need to go into verification mode. So, you know me, let's go in here and look at our BGP configurations. So from a BGP perspective, here's my template, right? I like to use templates all the time. And this time I'm using some security on there, so to speak, not as secure because you can see the password right in the open. But I have I got a question to ask you guys, bonus quiz. So what type of hashing algorithm does this command use? And what TCP port are you using for this? If you know those two, put it in the comments. I'll like the comment for you. All right. Then we have our cluster ID. And the reason why we're using that because we have two route reflectors. And there's a specific reason why you use your cluster ID. If you know that too, that's bonus question number 3. Tell me why you're using your cluster ID. Now, our peers are going to inherit my template, which is up here, not doing anything with IPv4. And as you can see, we're using VPLS here. And I did EVPN, but I haven't configured anything from an EVPN perspective. But we got VPLS here. Now, bonus question number 4. And this is the last bonus question here. This command here, we are suppressing the signaling of LDP. Now, there are 2 methods for VPLS. There's the Martini method, and there's the Capella method, with a KX, by the way. When I use this command, what method am I actually using? Martini or Capella? Put it in the comments below. I'll like your comment if you get it right. Now, from a neighborship standpoint, this is where the carrier support carrier kicks in, because if we look at our neighborships here, as you can see, all my neighbors here, obviously I'm not going to have any routes from my other route reflector, and there's a specific reason why. I believe I asked you the question for that. If you don't remember, just wind it back, get the question, and answer that. And then you get the answer to why you got a 0. And then we have our normal stuff here. These are our PEs and our separate points of presence here in this lab. So you see, we have our state and all that good stuff here. So now let's get down to the PE. So PE 5, 6, 9, and 10. That's where we're running our VPLS here. Now we'll verify that. And then from a data plane standpoint, we are going to use a carrier in the middle that we are, carrier support carrier, the whole point of this video, that we're going to use to get to the other point of presence to establish the VPLS connection. So basically what's going to end up happening is everything's going to look like one big switch because it's an overlay VPN. It's not a peering VPN. Peering VPN is L3, overlay is L2. And we are going to simulate a switch in the middle, so to speak. And then I'm going to run EIGRP from my CEN because on an overlay VPN, you control the routing, not the service provider. So they don't care really about that. They just give you the connection and then you handle the routing from there. And then we're going to test reachability. We're just going to do a simple ping test. So I want you to look at this as, say this one in the green is California, this one in the blue is like Austria or something like that, right? And you're just trying to simulate an L2 connection between the 2 points of presence so your customer can have that L2 adjacency for whatever reason they need it for, and it'll look like they're just connected directly to each other with a switch or something. So from a VPLS perspective, I do have a bridge ID in here. Now, there's plenty of different ways to configure this. I just figured out the way that I like doing this. And if we look at the configuration for the L2 stuff, so basically what we're doing here is that's really it. Now, there's another way to do this, but I never really liked that way, right? So this is the way I got comfortable with doing VPLS. And this is what your virtual forwarding instance, right? That's the whole purpose of what VFI actually means. So you create this command called L2VPN, VFI context, give it a name. Then you have your VPN ID. This is for joining the actual VPLS. Everybody that's participating in this VPLS will need to have the same VPN ID. And I'm going to do auto discovery with BGP. So I'm going to auto discover my peers using BGP. And then the virtual endpoint ID is 5, which matches the router ID. This has to be different. The virtual endpoint ID has to be different on every router, right? If it's the same, then it won't join the network because somebody else already has it, right? And that got me the first time I learned VPLS because I made it all one, like the same number, and none of it was coming up. So just know that virtual endpoint ID definitely needs to be a different number here. All right. And then from there, you do your simple bridge domain commands. I'm going to show you what it looks like from a command standpoint for bridge domain. So you do your bridge domain, your number, you have your interface that you want to be a member, and then you have your VFI, which is your virtual forwarding interface. Once you do this, or instance, sorry. Once you do this, it comes up and then everything will be discovered from that point on. Now the difference between, again, I've done plenty of videos on VPLS if you want to get a little bit deeper into VPLS, but I'll just give you a summary here. So we do our service instance here that matches the service instance here. And then we're just doing encapsulation untagged. If you were sending a tag to your service provider, it would have to match the tag, basically. So it'll be encapsulation .1q, whatever the number is. Now I'm forwarding CDP and LLDP. So if I did run CDP on the routers itself, on the CE side, I would see the neighborship there. That's really it, right? From a bridge domain VPLS standpoint, something simple. Now, if I wanted to see the MAC addresses that are tied to VPLS, to the VPLS domain or the bridge domain, I would do a show bridge domain number, right? And remember, with VPLS is a full mesh, so there has to be some type of tracking of MAC addresses to pseudo wires. With VPWS, since it's a point-to-point and it's only one ingress and egress, either way, we don't really need to track the MAC addresses. That's kind of really one of the differences between VPWS and VPLS. So if we look at our bridge domain, it's 4. Here you go. So we have our neighbors here, right? We have our instance, and then we have our MAC to pseudo wire bindings, right? So the one that's local to us will have the interface names with. So this is local to me, right? So if I go to router 12 and I do show interface G1, I could pipe it to a hardware address, but let me see if I can get that section hardware. Yeah, that's not gonna work. So let's just do this. I could have did it this way actually. Section address. There we go. And you can see that's the address here. So 500000C0000 matches that right there. All right. And then everything else, these MAC addresses are going to go through the VPLS network, which is basically pseudo wires, full mesh pseudo wires. And it's going to tell me, okay, to get to this MAC address, I need to go over to this pseudo wire to get there. Okay. Now, yeah, so CDP is not enabled. So what we're going to do is going to enable CDP to run on all of these. And this may take some time to actually work. Here. And because we're forwarding that LDP or that layer 2 protocol, what should happen is after a while, we should see our CDP neighbors here. We just need to wait. That's going to kick in, but that's not the point of that. So from a routing perspective, so we go show IP route, ERGRP. We have our routing there. Now, I believe on router 12, I did make the loopback .11, so that is on me. All right. So we see everything here. All right. And then we'll just verify on everything so you guys see it. All right. And show you IGP neighbors. All right. And we're there. You know what I want to do? I may have forgotten to do this for the CDP part. Type in the CDP stuff. Now again, I don't expect this to come on anytime soon while we're doing this lab here. It does take some time. Yeah, so that's not going to come on, and does take some time, but it'll come on eventually. But as you can see, if I go ping 10, 255, 255, 14, source for my loopback, there we go, right? And if you look at the routes, like I told you, you see these are D routes, so these are technically internal routes. They're not external routes because I'm not redistributing. So this shows you that I have ERGRP running through my VPLS network using carrier support carrier. And if I do a trace route from here, it'll look like I'm just going directly to my neighbor, right? Just like VPWS. So I did 14, so it should go to dot 3, I believe, 4.3, I believe, and then go directly over, right? Meanwhile, this is actually going through a VPLS network, right? So if we, I like to wire shark. If you're not wire sharking, you're not learning. From a network perspective, by the way. So we go here. We run that same command for the ping. Wrong link there. Because I just want you to see the label here. I mean, technically, I could see it here if I wanted to. I could see it here because we're running EIGRP. So here you go. Here's the label right there, right? Because I'm running EIGRP, so you can see that would be technically the service label or label underneath, right? And we can tell if this is the bottom of the stack label if we see a 1 next to that S. And there it is. So because we see the 1 there, we know that's the bottom of the stack label. I'm not going to get into pseudo wire control words or anything like that. I'm not going to get into that. And then you got your logical link control. So this tells you that we're definitely using a layer 2 VPN here. And that's really it, right? So let's get out of this lab and then let's review what we just did. So what you just saw was VPLS using carrier support carrier. What I did here was I showed you that your route reflector does not have to exist in the same physical location as your PEs. As you're going through your studies, you're probably going to see that a lot. But just understand from a real world perspective, real world engineering perspective, that might not be the case. And I've seen route reflectors in different locations. As long as you have reachability and you can establish the neighborships between your PEs and your route reflectors, no matter where they are, then you can do things like this VPLS. You can do EVPN, you could do regular MPLS L3 VPNs, stuff like that. Then you saw we had the connection from the data plane standpoint was going around the route reflectors, of course, because the route reflectors are out of band, so they're not in the data plane per se, right? In this example, they weren't in the data plane. So as long as your data plane is going in a different direction and your control plane is already set up, really doesn't matter about the control plane per se from a data plane perspective because you're not going through the same path as where your route reflectors are, right? So you got to see VPLS with CSC, our carrier support carrier. You got to learn this type of stuff because in the real world, these are the things that you're going to run into. Now, from an enterprise perspective, you're probably not going to run into this because most people don't run MPLS in their network per se. I've seen it I've seen it about 5 times. Somebody runs, an internal MPLS system in their network or network in their environment, but most people don't do that. But it is good to know this type of stuff because you will have to deal with service providers, right? And you don't want to be on the phone or you don't want to be in the meeting and they're talking about things like this and you have absolutely no idea what they're saying, right? So watch this stuff. I got other videos too. Again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. And then you're going to learn some service provider stuff. You're going to learn some enterprise stuff. I even got some Juniper videos, some automation stuff in there as well. So this is Don for Padlock Technologies again. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you and have a nice day.